These are the metaphysical teachings of P. L. Swan.
Hi, it's PL. In this video, I want to talk about meditation. I just think that it's very important when we desire spiritual awakening to have practices that allow us to discipline our ego self and our mind in order that we can come to see our own essential self. There are various different kinds of meditation practice, obviously, and various ideas about what meditation means. But in my experience, the power of meditation is not simply to, reach a place of peace or quiet. It's to get past the noise and entanglements of the mind, of the ego mind and human psychology, in order that we can actually experience our most essential self or soul. Like when we are born, or even before birth, when we're in the womb, we are in a thoughtless state. We don't have the language or the conceptual framework by which our mind has what we would think of as, in common terms, as thoughts. Just thoughts aren't necessarily in words, but they are very conceptualized ideas about things. Even if we don't recognize that's what we're doing, we are so often conceptualizing everything around us and every experience that we have, and often that is in terms of words. We use words in our own minds, and even though a baby has obviously a brain and a developing human psychology, there isn't that built up framework of concepts and words and language which gets in the way of a direct experience, not just with our own essential self, but with the world around us and reality beyond ourself. And so, as an adult human being, we can make a choice to practice disciplining the noise and tangle of thoughts and concepts within our mind, especially within our, most instinctual ego mind that kind of creates this constant noise. And, even if we're not like thinking clearly about a specific thing, it's this constant noise and sort of hum of, anxieties, plans, feelings about what someone said, about someone we're in our life. I mean, it's just so complicated. That's the reason meditation is so important, because the mind is incredibly complicated, and the noise of the mind, the thoughts and concepts and background noise and anxieties, is so tangled and complex that without at least an attempt through meditation to become aware of that noise and to slowly quiet it and have a perspective outside of it, without doing that, there's no hope for ever seeing beyond it or through it. And so I highly recommend meditation to anyone who is seeking to know themselves, to know their true self, and to open their mind to reality as it truly is. As far as meditation practice, I have a very simple practice, and I would recommend something simple, especially for someone starting out. And basically, it is to sit, in a very comfortable position. I generally sit cross-legged, but you can just sort of sit on a stool or something like this, which, is common practice. To sit and then to try to become aware of your own thoughts, to become aware of your mind's activity without simply having it as your identity. Um, so to sit and to try to observe and become aware of your thoughts, that they are thoughts, that they are not you, your thoughts, and then there's sort of the what has been called the body image, which is simply the image you have of yourself at all times, walking or shopping or driving or sitting in meditation. To become aware of that self-image, and also to know that that is not who you truly are in your essence. And that's the beginning right there. However you do that, it's simply to take the time to sit. I began with my eyes closed. Now I will sometimes have my eyes closed, sometimes my eyes will be open. Whatever works best. And then to simply observe your own mind activity. And it's very difficult in the beginning. It's very difficult because your mind is trying to observe itself, you know. You don't really have the outside perspective to even do it, almost, you know. It's very difficult, almost paradoxical at the beginning, because your mind will just be active. Your mind will just be going off. One thing I will say here that's very important is in beginning a meditation practice, you have to be very kind to yourself and not despair when your mind does just go off and you realize after maybe 4 or 5 minutes that you have just been wandering in your thoughts. The only way to get past this is to be kind to yourself and to bring yourself back to a state of awareness of your thoughts over and over again. You will have to do this over and over again. And so you can't despair. And if you do get frustrated, which may happen, you have to also just let that go. As time goes by, you will become more aware of your thoughts as thoughts and your self-image as an image. As time goes by, you will begin to gain this sort of quiet, thoughtless perspective on your own psychology, the countless activities and noises of the mind, of the ego mind, of the human psychology. As time goes by, you'll start to see through this. You'll start to be something beyond this. You'll start to identify with something deeper, something that does not depend upon thought to exist. Now, this is where I have a slightly different perspective on meditation than some. When we begin to finally observe our thoughts as thoughts and our self-image as an image that is not who we really are, as we get further into the ability to find that space beyond thought, what is it that we're experiencing then? That's a very important question. Some people speak about emptiness. Some people speak about, a oneness beyond the self with all things. But I believe what I have experienced is that, in fact, we are experiencing our own soul, which is beyond thought. We are experiencing that essential self that we were as a child and before this life. We are experiencing our own most essential consciousness, our own eternal soul. Now, the trouble with understanding this is that the mind is so used to self being synonymous with thought activity and human perspective and human psychology that our human self, our ego mind, when it actually touches on something beyond that human psychology, it feels like nothing. It feels like vastness beyond comprehension.